Hello, my name is David McFall, and welcome to today's presentation. I am a principal at an elementary school, kindergarten, 5-year-old kindergarten to grade 6. And I'm from Canada, the province of Quebec. And our school is located in the city of Gatineau, which is right beside Ottawa, the capital of Canada. And our school is actually minutes from the Parliament buildings. And today we're going to look at rethinking, reimagining school through play and nature. So as you can see in this first image, we have a class of kindergarten students, and they're 5 years of age. And their entire day, all but about 30 minutes of school each day, takes place outdoors. Now you can see in this image, this is the corner of the school that happens to be their classroom. They have these stumps, tree stumps that they work through their language arts, their math during the day. We also notice that they play in this area. There's something about this image of 5-year-old children, and at each day there's something different with these stumps and planks. So this day, I'm not sure what the game was that they created. I think it was follow the leader, but you can see the 5 stumps and the 3 planks, and they're just having the most enjoyable time at school. And if you just look at the corner, the right hand side of the picture, that plank is millimeter away from falling down and all kids tumbling to the ground. But this is about joy, fun, a little bit of risk taking. But to set the presentation, it's very important to know that our context, the social context of education, is undergoing very challenging times. Michael Fulham, a Canadian theorist, researcher, author, and he talks about it's not the heroic actions of tackling societal problems or challenges, but what we can control are the little things. And it's the little things that we can do in schools, in our communities, that can provide the support and to provide the positive context for children to thrive. And I think it's important to know that for healthy child development, children require an educational ecosystem. And that is the home, the family, the community, the schools, and nature. And that it needs to be an interconnectedness of these forces. And what we're seeing today is more of a disconnectedness. So what has changed? What has changed in society that it requires us to rethink or reimagine schools, the context of schools, the landscape? But if you think about your own lives and worlds and how busy we are today, and children, human nature, child development has not changed at all. However, the context, the conditions have changed. And we think of the separation that children are going through today from daycares all the way through to after school programs and scheduled sports and activities in the evening. They don't spend as much time with parents, with families, with extended families. And so therefore the attachments to their primary loved ones, caregivers, are maybe not as firm as they were in years or decades in the past. But what has also changed in the lives of children is that they're not in nature as much as they used to be. They didn't grow up perhaps like myself or maybe you, that our days were spent outdoors in nature in play. And there was something about the freedom of play, the sanctuary of play, that allowed us to practice skills and roles and play out emotions and just have that childhood that we felt so free. So today our children, they don't have the same access to the outdoors for a variety of reasons, and they don't have the same opportunities to just leap into play. So what can we do? And when we look at our schools and we look at what we are doing and the traditions that we have in modern schools, how can we shape a culture? How can we affect or impact the context, the conditions, to help with that healthy child development, to help improve the conditions, so that students are ready for school. They're available for learning for more periods of time. So there's a great quote by Deborah McNamara from British Columbia, from Vancouver, Canada. And she says, what we see determines what we do, and what we do creates school culture. This image is a little forest beside our school. It's a very urban area. As I said, it's close to the Canadian Parliament buildings. And I've been at this school for over 12, 13 years. And probably the first 7 or 8 years, I either drove or ran past this little wooded forest area, and I didn't even notice it. And then one day, a kindergarten teacher came up and said, "Do you mind if we take our students to the forest?" I said, "What forest?" Just kind of laughed at me, and I kind of laughed at myself when I had realized I had never noticed this grassy forest area with trees and rocks and a canal, a beautiful place for children to play. So this was the start of us thinking differently. And for me personally, it was the first time my eyes were really open to look differently, to look beyond the school ground, to look at what we had, the resources we had within our local area. And this park, this forest, has become the new classroom for our students over the last several years. So why play in nature? Why is play in nature so important in schools? And I mentioned a few moments ago that there seems to be a deficit in the lives of children of being able to leap into play, to be outdoors. Obviously, technology has played a part in that. The children would prefer to be online on social media or playing games, and it's not as attractive to just go outside and play because of these options. But when we see children leaping into play, and at recess time, you can see that this child skipping and others holding the skipping ropes, and in the background, students playing road hockey and broomball. I think that's a very Canadian game. But something happened a few years ago. We did a survey at the school to talk about school climates and when did children feel safe at school, and when did they not feel safe at school. And interestingly, the biggest response to when kids did not feel safe at school, it wasn't because there was necessarily bullying or intimidation or anything going on. What students noted most often of why they didn't feel safe at school was when they were alone. And that really hit us at the school, and we realized there's children who are on the playground, and we would just assume that all children can play. Everybody can just leap into that place of fun and joy. But time and time again, we're finding, once we started to notice this, that students were isolated, were on their own, because they didn't have that access to join the games or be able to play. So there's an assumption that all children, especially at recess time, just play. So what we did is created a playmakers group, a team of senior students that we trained them how to facilitate play and support students on the playground. And you can see here in this image, it's just quite simple that holding the ropes for senior kids or younger kids allowed everyone to just have an opportunity to be included and to be part of play. And when children have a successful recess time, it sets them up for very good days. And I'm sure in your schools and in your context, you often see this after recess. There happens to be some kind of disagreement or some kind of perhaps a scuffle between students. But the more that you can put senior students, adults in a place of facilitating play and reclaiming some of those childhood games, whether it's the clapping or rhyming games, having a focus on that and being able to see the importance of that definitely helps our children enjoy their time at recess, which in turn helps them enjoy their time at school. True play. There's play and there's true play. There's a Canadian psychologist, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, and he's been working, I think, his whole lifetime in understanding healthy child development and the stages of maturation, and actually understanding what is true play. When can we as adults or children truly leap in to play? And it's a beautiful quote. And when we are in true play, it's like we are bubbled in the safety of this sanctuary. that allows us to almost block out the real world. And it's incredible emotional work is all under the rather innocuous and playful camouflage of being up to nothing at all. And that's what play is. And really this goes through the theme of this presentation, and really the heart of our school educational project, of our philosophy, our organizational model, is that when kids are able to leap into play, when they get into that place, that sanctuary, into that flow, when they're having fun, they're enjoying themselves, then everything else just unfolds in a very positive way. And that's when the true learning, where we can ensure that all students are engaged because they're in play, they're in flow, and then we know they're available for learning. Whether or not they're all learning at the same levels is different. It depends on the activity, of course, but we know that they're all in that position to be available for learning. So it's how do you get into true play? And it's not that easy. We just assume that kids will leap into that. If there's any stress, if there's any anxiety, if a child is feeling separation or isolated, it's not as easy for them to be at rest. Finding that state of rest usually comes with those close attachments, not having that stress, not having that anxiety, and just leaping into this magical world of play. So what we started a few years ago was a 5-year-old kindergarten program. And we did this because for several years we were noticing that these 5-year-olds, physiologically 5, were coming in, but they weren't ready for school. They were coming from different backgrounds, some from the home, some from daycares, but we definitely noticed that they were emotionally younger, maybe emotionally 3. And what we would have expected them to be able to do in their readiness for school, they weren't. They couldn't be contained in a classroom. There were these big emotions that were playing out in the classrooms, the frustration, the tears, the tantrums. And it was just so messy. And over the years, we were seeing this more and more. And as a result, the kindergarten teachers are saying something's changed. Something's changed in children in the last few years. That the regular kindergarten program that was being delivered wasn't the program that many children needed. Some could adapt and some could be fine in a regular kindergarten classroom, but many couldn't. And this is the point in our own context, in our own schools, that we think, do we just continue with the same? Or is this the moment where you think we should be doing something different to ensure that all of our children, all of our students can access the learning and the fun that we're delivering in our schools? So what we've created is a full-day outdoor program. And if any of you know Canada, it can be a very moderate temperature at this time of the year, around 0 degrees. But in the winter, it can get down to -20, -25. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. And in the summer, it can be plus 30, near 190 degrees, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So extreme cold and extreme heat, and a little bit of moderate temperature in the spring and the fall. So what happens in the day is that in the morning they go out into their stations, they do their languages, they do their math, and as you can see in the picture, they use these tree stumps. Some sit on them, some lean on them, some roll on them, play on them. And any time that you come to this area of the school after recess, you'll notice they've created seesaws, or as you saw earlier, put the planks and they're balancing, follow the leader. So they just create their own play in their classroom area. And the parents, last year we did a survey, 40 parents in this program, 40 out of 40 loved it, demanded more time as their children go through the school in grade 1, grade 2. They saw something happen in the development of their children during this 5-year-old program, their love of the outdoors, their need to be outdoors after school in the evenings, which drew in the parents. And they would take their parents out and they would explain some of the ecology, the birds, and parents were impressed that not only did their children start to know something about nature, but also that it was motivating them as families to get outside. So when we talk about this educational ecosystem of how do we bring the families and the school and the community closer together, we can't change society, but we can start to influence things in a different way through just changing the context, changing the conditions at school. So at this point, just pause for a second, and I'll ask this question, and in a few slides for you to type in if you can, of when do you think children are at their best? We talk about a lot of the deficits and what's missing and what's wrong, but from your opinion, whether as a parent or a teacher or a principal, when are children at their best? And just keep that in mind, because in a few slides I'll ask that question, and if you can give some feedback, some responses of when you feel children are at their best. So we call this the magical forest, and they once they've done their math centers and their language centers, they walk up the hill, down the hill, off the property into we call it the magical forest, because it evokes those feelings of a sense of wonder, of enchantment, and the teachers are so skilled at the storytelling and the talking about nature, and even when the kids just go into the trees and climb on the rocks and just free play. To get the kids back, they either do a wolf call or I'm not sure of the other call, but one is definitely the wolf call. And when you witness this and you watch all the children coming back, right back to their teacher, it's a beautiful sight. I remember the first time we even talked about this with the teachers in a staff meeting, and asked who would be interested in going outdoors and taking your learning outside, and many people were, that's a different idea. And there's always one or two responses that say, oh, all the students are just going to run away. We're not going to be able to contain. And we've been doing this for several years at the school, whether it's kindergarten all the way up to grade 6, and not once has any student left their teacher, has run away, has become distracted and been apart from the group. Students tend to stay directly with their teachers, supervisors when they're outdoors. There's something about the attachment. And in this magical forest, I don't know, not to sound corny, but there's something about the breeze, the sensory, the breeze, the trees, the birds, that is so soothing and calming for kids. And we talk about children and adults in a very, very busy, stressful world. And when children and adults are outside, something changes. Talk about being ready to learn, available to learn. Nearly at all times when students are outdoors, they are learning. And they're learning through play, they're learning through listening, and there's many soft skills that are built day after day after day. You can see in the classroom that the kids have their art centers, their math centers, building. They've got planks and wood that they can construct their own castles, their own play areas, and it's just seeing kids in the lead of playtime, or even learning time. And one thing when we talk about staff and schools and teachers are regularly asking for more money for math manipulatives or other things within the classroom, these children, when they're outdoors, their manipulatives are twigs, rocks, acorns, or anything that they can find that they think might be good for drawing letters, for creating letters with rocks or twigs. But they find their own manipulatives for their learning. And sometimes the teachers challenge them to find new things or what else they can do. So just using nature for learning and giving that sense of ownership and agency to children to be part of their learning, they do become very creative, and their problem solving skills that we see outdoors is almost a wonder. I'll just stop for a second, and I want to challenge you a little bit. This is the Dark Hedges in County Antrim, Northern Ireland, and it's a very magical, mystical place. So I thought that was the right image here to stop and ask, where's your magical forest in your life? Whether it's in your school, in your classroom, out of your classroom, or in your own personal life. I'll just give a few minutes for you to think, and if you can, type in a few areas that you feel that you can leap into this place, into this magical forest, a metaphor of where you are at your best or your kids are at your best. So I'll give a minute, and where is your magical forest? I see a question from, or a response from Anne. Children at their best when they're expressing their curiosity through a range of expressive languages, gestures, loose parts. There's there's a freedom to that, and such a fun element when you think of that Dr. Neufeld quote of playful camouflage and being up to nothing at all, and we feel that what they're doing isn't necessarily directly related to learning, but everything from those cooperative skills to collaborating to problem solving to having this curiosity and interest in not just nature and each other, but listening to their teacher and then learning. The learning unfolds when they're just naturally in a place of fun. And it sounds so simple, but until you do this and see it play out over and over again, you don't realize the power of this. And if you think about emotion, and today I've talked about there seems to be more stress, more anxiety, not just in the lives of parents, but in the lives of children. We're kindergarten to grade 6 school, and we see kids of all ages exhibiting stress. And children aren't supposed to be stressed. They're supposed to feel at ease, at rest, in order for them to be able to do their best, to be at their best. But we also know that when children are frustrated, and those big emotions don't get a chance to play out, those big emotions turn into foul expression and tantrums, and it can be messy. And when this is in the school setting or in a classroom, it doesn't play out as well as if there are big emotions or big frustrations outdoors. We've never seen them play out the same. So just so many benefits of being outdoors, of being in nature and in play. So to value the importance of play. And the image here of a teacher scootering with her grade 2 class. And again, it's a simple, playful act. And yep, this image can evoke different kinds of thoughts and responses. I look at this and I see the students all following in the same direction, following their teacher, deeply attached to their teacher, or another students taking the lead. They're in the lead of the scootering, and strangely enough, that we would almost assume that all children have the balance and the fine and gross motor skills to scooter, to skateboard, to cycle. But we noticed during COVID that when we purchased the scooters and the bicycles and the skateboards to get kids out to play and have fun, we noticed that some kids had no balance. They'd not been on scooters, they'd not been on bicycles. Even up to grade 6, students couldn't ride a bike. And you realize, oh my, they've just never had, and that's when it really hit us that many students just don't play. And if they don't play, their balance, their coordination, their fine and gross motor skills are delayed, and it's impacting some of their opportunities at school and outside of school, and probably later in life. But it's a Peter Gray, an American author, theorist, and children need to play. It's not a luxury. It's something that we should not regard as recess or break from learning. It is learning. It's an imperative. And in play, children are always learning. And when we can link curriculum and assessment and evaluation to our play, then it is so powerful and so deep. And that's when all our kids are engaged and all our kids are available for learning. So play can be everywhere. Play can be the playfulness in your classroom. It can be movement to music, but in a school, all those little things that we can impact and engage all the students. Every year we invest in time, in the teachers, in music teacher and getting in specialists to perform a great grade 3 musical at the end of the year. And they integrate this into their arts classes, their English and their French classes. But all the teachers devote the time for students to learn about music, of reading musical notes, to be able to perform, to sing. And this goes on throughout the year. And it's just like creating a new tradition each year. And every year you hear different students of the grade 5s and the grade 6s, and they almost lament and say, oh, do you remember when we did the grade 3 musical? And it creates those collective memories for students. And if you also think about the COVID years, the lost years, the lack of memories, that if children don't have those milestones, those memories through their school days, they don't have anything to look back at. They don't have those reference points, those things to get them excited. So just everywhere we look, every opportunity we can find, we inject some playfulness, and it just becomes the culture. It's what you see is play everywhere within the school at different levels. And it's not just sports, and it's not just arts, or it's not just moving outside. It's everywhere. And even the principal at an assembly, once we started our big skipping revolution, a student come up to me and challenged me to a skipping competition. I was like, in front of the whole school? He said, yeah, sir, would you do that? I said, okay, all right. So we had this skipping competition, and I didn't really think that much about it. A lot could have gone wrong. I could have fallen flat in my face and the principal's down, but at the same time, it was fun. And what you're trying to portray is that the adults, the principals, we can play too. We can have fun, even if this could have gone horribly wrong. Play in the hill at recess time with the snow in Canada. We borrow cross-country skis, and in the winter, this is just the mound of snow that's built up from clearing the snow in the yards. We get sleds, so that there's always something for kids to do during recess, during phys eds, and we use the elements around us. And even play day on the hill. We take time every year to have a full play day. The hill we refer to in Canada as Parliament Hill. These are the Canadian Parliament buildings, and all the students walk over, and it's our play day on the hill. And we knock on the door and invite the politicians out to play and out to skip. And we always get 2 or 3 good-hearted politicians to come and play, but it gives our children a sense of understanding our political institutions, and they talk about social justice, or even truth and reconciliation in Canada with our Indigenous people. So it brings our students closer to to our history, to our society, our governments, and gives them a voice through play. And our playful learning. During COVID, we thought, could we do something different? Could we find a way to give our students some agency in helping be a solution? We heard about Corsi Rosenthal do-it-yourself air purifiers, which is simply furnace filters that take in all the particles and viruses and matter and dander in the air, and then it blows out through a box fan. So all it is a box fan, furnace filters, cardboard, and duct tape. And they put these together, and they build these classroom purifiers. And they did this for every classroom in the school. We've done it for the last 2 years. But the fun in learning, and they learned about the science of air purification. And they went around to classes with these, distributed them to the classes, and then explained this science. The kids had so much fun, but it was taking ownership, agency of a problem in society of COVID, and then finding a little thing that they could do that makes a small difference. And even more recently, we've got hydroponic systems in the classroom. Started with one classroom, some champion teachers growing lettuce and tomatoes and herbs. And all of a sudden, 3, 4, 5, 6 teachers in the last few months said, I want a hydroponic system. I want to be able to do this as well. So we have a mini chef program where students are able to to select a menu. Each class can select a menu. They cook the food with the chef. They collect the money. They serve. They clean up, and then they get to count the profits and decide as a class what they're going to do with it. All the learning that takes place in a program like this is just so deep and so playful and meaningful. So what have we learned? We've only got a minute or two left, and basically, children thrive outdoors. They're more focused, calm, patient. Adults are more patient. Students are more available for learning, more curious. They're connected to the land, connected to each other, connected to their learning. They're able to adapt to the elements, adapt to this new environment, more resilient, confident, creative, and the expression, to be expressive outdoors. And it's not so much this foul expression. There's joy, there's happiness, excitement, and they're playful. They're learning through play. So what has changed? Day begins and ends outdoors. No school bells. Student-directed learning. They ask what we can learn when we're outdoors. Less frustration, better behavior as a principal, better behavior. No one getting sent to the principal's office is always a good thing. The relationships are improved. Increased student engagement, and just a playful attitude, both from students and staff towards learning. Some things that didn't go so well. Not every teacher wants to go outdoors. They find their own ways to play. It is demanding. It requires more energy. So you need to know when your teachers are feeling at a low point of energy and when to step back, when to give them more choice. And one thing we did learn, tents cannot survive a Canadian winter. We had these tents up during COVID. First snowfall, they didn't last. We're not going to be able to have the video today, but some of the things that maybe you see in your schools, but a shift in philosophy, in our thinking and our practices, our ability to adapt, to lead with a soft heart, more attachment, holistic, innovative, our willingness to think and organize differently, and just to understand the importance of emotional expression. Take the learning outdoors, learn through play, and really, it's all the little things that matter. Thank you very much.